All right. Today is May the 10th, and oh my goodness, it's just amazing to think that this year is almost halfway through. It's just crazy when it goes by so fast. Anyways, I don't know about you, but that's exactly how I'm experiencing the shift or time is moving so fast because Course in Miracles teaches us we're moving beyond time. Time constrains us, it constricts us, it binds us to having to get everything done in a certain period of time. It causes so much stress, it causes so much worry. Plus, when we're focused on a calendar or on a clock, we're not listening to our own internal guidance system. We're not listening to our own rhythm, and we are going to be moving away from needing these things in time. I mean, we may be hundreds of years before we can totally give those things up, but little by little by little, as the Course teaches us, all minds are joined. And when our minds are joined and you need to meet with somebody, you'll just let them know, hey, let's connect for coffee. It's all going to be telepathically done, because the world is bifurcating into two realms: the realm that's moving more into intuitive knowledge, and the realm that is moving more into total control, where you are told what you can and cannot do. I mean, this whole concept of these 15-minute cities that have been around, they are actually, it's already happening. It's been happening for a long time in China. I was watching a documentary of how it was in the 1980s, maybe 19, somewhere around there, maybe even sooner than that, where the system that they operate from, the communist system that they operate from, was creating these small cities, and people can't leave those areas. It's all sold to us in the, for convenience and safety and all of those things, but you're monitored. And if you try to leave, you get in trouble. And if you don't follow things a certain way, it affects your social credit score. That is pure ego. The ego is all about control. The ego is about telling you where you can go, where you can't go, when you can go, when you can't go. Anything that has control in it does not honor the sovereignty of the soul that intuitively knows what it needs and knows when it needs it. So as we become more connected to that inner voice, we become more guided and need less of the external controls that we have relied on. Now, here in the West, we pretty much, yes, we have clocks and calendars, and we follow a schedule. That's been part of it, but we haven't been locked into the 15-minute cities yet, although many cities in this country have been participating in those studies. It's all part of Agenda 2030 to create these cities, because there's a bigger plan. The ego is not going to give up. An ego that is in charge is not going to give up until it has total control and dominion over others, because it is personally out of control and disconnected from its own inner kingdom. So when we begin to see that what we project outside is always based on what's happening inside, if you're connected to source, you leave everybody alone because they're connected to source. There's no need to control anybody. But if you're disconnected from source, you think you are your own source, your own God. And if you get a little bit of power and you take advantage of that power, little by little, you think that then you get to control everybody else. So we've got these two worlds that they're shaping right before our eyes. What's fascinating is that they've been there for thousands of years. Jesus was warning us about the money changers. Jesus was here to help people connect with the inner the kingdom of heaven that is within, because he was saying you don't need all these 600 and some odd laws that the Jewish system had. He was attempting to tell people, wake up from the controllers. You don't need the controls. If you love God and you love your neighbor as yourself, that's the only thing that should guide you. So here we are 2,000 years later, still receiving these beautiful messages to try and wake us up from the same illusion. It's the same illusion. It's always been the same illusion, same delusion of separation, the same belief that we are not powerful, that we need something external to take care of us. And those who get conditioned into believing you need something external to control you, a calendar, a watch, somebody who schedules you, or a dictator, you are going to have that experience because that's what you're believing you deserve. That's what you're believing is reality. So we are waking up, training our mind to move in a different direction, because the direction that you naturally want to follow when you begin to connect with God is the direction of liberation. You want to do what you want to do when you want to do it. But when you are loving your neighbor as yourself, you honor commitments. Hey, let's meet up for lunch. Hey, we're going to do this at this particular time. We're going to get married on this date. Those agreements get made, but they are always joyful and fluid. There is no control in any of that. So time is moving quickly. For those who are moving out of time, it's going to accelerate until such time. I don't know which incarnation it's going to be. I don't know how long it's going to be. I don't get specifics as to when anything is going to happen, because we're all creating it as we go. So if humanity today, if enough of us today decided we're done with time, we would be done with time. But because we still use time, I made an appointment to get my hair cut, and it's going to be tomorrow at 1:30. So I'm using time. But when we decide that we no longer want to deny our telepathic abilities and we begin to connect with one another, clocks and calendars will not be necessary, because we will be doing things when we feel like doing them. And that's a beautiful thing. So in chapter 30, as we continue in this section called the New Beginning, it's telling us how to move in that direction, because it's telling us that we're going to constantly be making decisions. That's not going to stop. As a creator, we're always deciding, what do we want to create? But it all starts with an awareness of what is it that we want. When we become clear about what we want, then manifestation becomes, it's just part of the process. And in this section, we've been looking at the most important question that we ask ourselves if we are creating a new beginning is, what kind of a day do I want? And if you don't want to think about the whole day, you could, what kind of an hour do I want? What kind of a moment do I want? And begin to bring yourself back to the place where all decisions are made. Because see, the world that the ego is creating of controls, we've made a decision to participate in that world. We incarnated into that world. Those who are waking up incarnated to wake up in this lifetime from that world and begin the co-creation of something new, because this is how God co-creates through each and every one of us. We observe what is, and we have a desire. Well, this is what I want to experience. From that desire, if you are wholly committed, this is why Course in Miracles says we have to train our mind. Your beliefs and your actions have to align. If you want a happy day, you can't go around having unhappy thoughts. Those are two opposite directions, and you are going to be feeling, what's that word? Bipolar, because you want a happy day, but you're thinking all these negative thoughts. You want to have peace, but you're thinking thoughts that are chaotic. Two opposite directions. That's what frequency is all about. High vibes, you are clear, you are certain, you are operating in joy and peace and love. Low vibes, you went whack. You're all confused. You are all scared. You are not at peace. You're relying on external things to help you feel better. Well, that is what we are waking up from, is that if you don't understand the power of your mind is going to control you. More specifically, those who understand the way the mind works are going to control your mind, because you won't have control of your mind. And it starts from the very, very beginning. From the moment we incarnate, the process of control begins. Starts with mother and father telling us what we can and cannot do. Then it moves on to teachers and preachers and government and media and bosses and spouses. And it keeps going on and on and on, because you Your mind is not trained. You don't understand that your feelings matter. But more importantly, you're not committed to the consistency that is required to liberate your soul. And once your soul is free, well, you don't have to worry about taking actions about anything because you're already free. And when you're free, you know the power of your mind. So the ability to create what it is that you want to experience becomes easy. It's natural. You don't have to think about it. We have to think about it while we are getting mixed results. So when we come to a place like the new beginnings and we get the steps, that's one of the things that I love about the Course in Miracles. The steps are right there. Super simple. What do you want? What do you want? That's it. What do you want? And see, we have been so conditioned into not even knowing what we want. Our minds have become so confused that we think we want what mother wants for us, or government wants for us, or society wants for us. So many of us don't even know what it is that we want. So the process of training our mind to remove the limitations, the thoughts that say you can't have that, you're not tall enough, you can't have that, you're not white enough, you can't have that, you're not rich enough, you can't have that, you're not pretty enough. So there are so many things that our heart desires, but the indoctrination tells us who gets it and who doesn't. So the next thing that we need to do is recognize, when you realize what you want, is don't make decisions by yourself. See, the self that we're aware of, the self that we think is who we are, is the conditioned self, which the Course in Miracles calls the ego. The ego is nothing but the conglomeration of thoughts that you think, and you think that's who you are. Because, you grow up in England, in the royal family, you think you're king, queen, you think you're the only king and queen of England. Well, that's condition. Every one of us is a royal because every one of us is holy. So in essence, if I don't know the population of England, let's say this population is 10 million people. Well, every one of them are holy royals too. Every single one of them. But the mind is conditioned that only one can be the king or the queen. And when your mind is conditioned into that, you can't override your own thoughts until you are clear about what you want. If you want to own that you are royal, holy royalness, well, then you have to make a decision with God. So you have to decide, I'm accepting how God created me. We're all equal. Nobody here is better than the other. We're all exactly the same. Your ego personality would say, no, I'm not the king or queen. I bow to the king or queen. That's what I do. Well, because we're trained to think with the mind of the ego, we cannot create the day that we want. We cannot create what we want from our heart because we're creating what we want from our head. So we want to go watch the king get coronated because that's what you're trained into. Well, if your heart says, I want to recognize our holiness, I want to recognize our equality, and I see the king getting a crown put on his head, but he's not any more royal than I am. So the heart knows our equality, but the head can go and participate in the pomp and circumstance. It's okay. But you will not free yourself from listening to the voice of the ego, which comes with rewards and punishments, good and bad, love and fear, if you don't train your mind to sort out these beliefs, sort out what is true, what is really holy about you, and what has been trained into you, programmed into you by those who want to control you. And it's a very clever game, and it's okay. It's okay that people want to control you. If you want to be controlled, wonderful, match up. Vibrationally, you match up and you can have a wonderful time. If you do not want to be controlled because you're owning your sovereignty, you're not going to want to be around that. Vibrationally speaking, it's too far apart. So those who are wanting to have an experience of liberation must first start with listening to their heart. What do I want? Why do I want liberation? Because I don't want being controlled. Why do I want liberation? Because I got things that I would love to do that in this environment, I'm not allowed to. Why do you want that? because it feels good, because it would be fun. We've got to activate our clarity about why we want what we want, because when we give ourselves permission to access our heart's desires, they activate a feeling, they open us up. It's exciting, it's joyful. It is the joy, it is the spark in the heart that brings about that manifestation. This is why you can sit all day long and say, "Oh, I want to be, I want to be king. I want to be free. I want to be whatever," but I'm not. You can say it till you're blue in the face. Your inner feeling is a shut down heart. Well, I would love that, but it's not going to happen to me. You can't bring that into manifestation because the heart is not emitting the impulses that activate the elementine particles, the molecules, the whatever, to come into manifestation. So we've got to first train our mind. That's why the Course in Miracles starts with training your mind. It is not until some of the later texts that were channeled by Jesus, specifically the text, A Course of Love, and then The Way of Mastery, those teachings are I'm going to call them more advanced because you understand the way the mind works already. That's what the Course in Miracles is about. The mind gets trained, then you begin to open the heart. And once you open the heart, then the acceptance of the truth of who you are, one with a creative source, that becomes the next step. But the first step of this journey is training your mind. That's it. You've got to understand the way the mind works, because that if you don't know how your mind works, then you don't realize that your mind is controlled by external forces, by your choice, because nobody can actually control you without you yielding control. Your mind is your own. So to choose to believe that things that are not true are true is a personal choice that we're making. So of course comes the responsibility of accepting that. But once we get clear that we deserve, that we desire, that we prefer something different, it all starts with, what do you want? Then now what do? Think with God. Don't think with the ego that tells you you don't deserve it or tells you how hard it's going to be to get it. I'm in the process of looking for a place here in this area that I'm in Colorado, with a friend that is moving here. And I trust that we're going to find the perfect place. And sometimes she goes into this fear, oh, this one didn't work out, that one. And I'm like, I'm not buying into that, because I really trust it will work out how it's supposed to work out. And when I look and when I see, and if today I got a couple of messages back and those are not going to work out, okay, those are not the one for us. We contacted somebody a couple of days ago and it sounded like they were going to show us a place, and didn't hear a thing from them yesterday. And all of a sudden, late last night, they're ready to show it to us today. Wonderful. Maybe that's it. Maybe it's not. We will know when we feel it. But if the mind is worried, the mind is concerned, then we are going to have things to get concerned about. It's going to come to prove to you that your mind creates your reality. I don't need to be proved that I need to be concerned, because that's not what I want. I want to have this process move with fun and ease. And I have decided to think with God. And when God inspires me, call this one, don't call that one, that's the voice that I'm listening to. Because when you totally realize, as you keep moving through these processes that are being taught to us here in this section, as you realize that a door closes and you are going, okay, that's what's supposed to happen, you are coming from all right, God is just guiding me on a fun journey to find this place. Who knows the people that I'm going to meet along the way, whose houses I may not rent, but become friends. And this is a very small town. So how wonderful it is to have those experiences. But if the mind is going down the path of the ego, oh, what could go wrong? What could, maybe it's a scam, maybe it's blah, 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 then those things are going to become your reality. When you catch yourself, and let me be completely honest, because I love being transparent. There have been a few thoughts that go through my mind that maybe we're not going to find the right place. Those thoughts move through my mind very quickly because I don't attach to them. They're not sticky. It's like my mind is Teflon and they slide right off. That's because I have almost 2 decades. 2 decades training my mind. And because I've been training my mind for that long, My mind does not control me. I am the observer of the thoughts in my mind. And if I see a wrong thought, a thought that is taking me down the wrong path, I can say, as it says in here, oh, I was wrong about that thought. Really simple. I was wrong about that thought. And then what happens is you realize you don't have to believe all the thoughts that are in your own head. You don't. You just because you think a thought does not mean it's true and does not mean you have to agree with it. So then what happens? You shift and you lift. It tells us in here, step number 5 in this section is, I want another way to look at this. I want to shift from the way I looked at it. I want to shift into, what do I want? It brings us back full circle. So you know what you want. You think with God or you think with ego. If you think with God, it's a whole fun and easy journey. If you think with the ego, then you're going to have opportunities to realize you were wrong. Then you shift yourself back to thinking with God. So we stopped at let's see, paragraph 14 is what we read last time, and that was video 103. Now we're going to do video 10. Well, this is video 104. So your day is not at random. This is in paragraph 15. It is set by what you choose to live it with. That's so powerful. And how the friend whose counsel you have sought perceives your happiness. In plain speak, your day is not random. You are creating your day based on who is going to be your friend that counsels you. Do you go to the Holy Spirit and you say, you know, as a child of God, as a holy royal child of God, I am entitled to miracles. I want things to unfold with ease and with fun. Put in my way people that are going to participate in that with me. Put in my place the best server at lunch so that I can have a wonderful experience. And you know what? Make them funny because I want to laugh today. I want to have that experience today, and let the traffic be smooth and easy for me. I want to have no issues with traffic today. I really want things to operate really smooth. Well, when you are that clear, number one, that you're royal and you deserve it, so you're entitled to miracles. Number two, you get clear about what it is that you want. You are clear about it. What happens is absolutely evidence of your beliefs. It just manifests for you. Hey, thanks for joining us. So we are in chapter 30. We're in section 1. Last week we completed paragraph 14, and now we're starting paragraph 15. So your day is not random. Get used to that. Your day is not random. Most people think that things happen by chance, but they do not. Everything happens by choice, because even though you're aware of it or not, you're sending off a frequency that is being answered to. Like attracts like. Misery loves company as much as joy loves company. So we're training our minds to be clear about what's happening here so that we can become very clear about what do we want. And then get the counsel of the friend that we prefer. Be counseled by the Holy Spirit versus continuing to listen to the ego. Sentence number 3 says, you always ask advice before you can decide on anything. You are always, always, always either listening to the voice for love or listening to the voice for fear. Those are the only two voices in our mind until you make a commitment to only listen to the voice for love. When you're only listening to the counsel for the friend that speaks of fun, of ease, of joy, of peace, of healing, of wholeness, of well-being, collaboration, co-creation, cooperation, when you're listening to that voice, you are making a choice for the kind of a world that you want. That's how you become the change that you want to see in the world. But when you're not listening to that voice, you're defaulting to the voice that always creates suffering, worries, complaints, competition, haves, have-nots, win or lose. That is always creating drama. That's it. So you just have to get really clear. Who am I listening to? Because there's only 2 directions, high frequency, low frequency. Now you can stay still for a while. And that's when you go into meditation, you're not looking to go into high frequency. When you're in meditation, you are in stillness. In stillness, you begin to hear guidance. And from that guidance, then when you get up from your meditation space, then you go on and do the things that you were inspired to do. Paint the painting, do whatever. Well, when you paint the painting, the high vibes of painting the painting attracts the person who wants that painting, or the friends who want to look at it or come and admire if you're not going to sell it. And all of a sudden you're experiencing this blissful journey because in stillness you were listening. Because see, when we go to stillness, we're neutral. Love is not, it's not like this exciting thing. Love is actually real love. God's love is actually where peace is, because you love everything. There's nothing to get more excited about this, that, or the other. So when you're aware of the truth of who you are and you're in that peaceful place, you literally, nothing really moves you because you are one with all that is. In meditation, we are learning to become the observer of the thoughts, the ones that take us high, the ones that take us low, so that we can be aware of the two directions and we can begin to choose that we prefer this. And for a while, we are seeking that joy, that bliss, that excitement, but eventually the journey becomes really, it's about peace and joy, not about chasing joyful moments. It's about, you live in that state all the time. So everything, you're joyful about everything. You enjoy it because that's what joy is. You enjoy everything. So there's not highs and lows. The beautiful, the sunset, it's just as marvelous as the rain or the snowstorm. All of it becomes equal for you to enjoy. But let me get back to this. So which friend is counseling you? God or the ego? You've got to get clear about that, because you're always getting the advice of one of those two voices. You're never doing things by yourself alone. You are choosing which voice to filter your processes through. So let this be understood, and you can see that there cannot be coercion here, nor grounds for opposition that you may be free. There is no freedom from what must occur. There is no freedom from what must occur. And if you think there is, you must be wrong. Meaning, God cannot coerce you. The Holy Spirit cannot say, oh, if you listen to us, then you're going to win the lottery. The Holy Spirit can't do that, because we have free will. When we enter into the next section, section number 2 here in this chapter, the title of it is Freedom of Will. So first, we have to understand that we're operating from one of two thought systems, love or fear, God or ego. When we become clear about that, because we've been observing it, then we got to decide, what do we want? And if you want love, and nobody wants fear. Consciously, nobody chooses fear, but unconsciously, we're constantly choosing fear because we don't know that love is a choice, that there is a voice that will pull us out of that insanity. So as we become clear that we know what it is that we want, we have to do it by free will. We have to be the ones who begin the process of searching, of seeking. God, what would you have me do? The process of humbling ourselves enough, because that's what quiets the voice. I know it all. The I know it all ego is the one that keeps doing the same thing, expecting a different result. So you've got to understand what that voice says, how it operates. Because when you can hear what it says and how repetitive it is, then you know not to repeat that process. Don't follow that. So here, you are free to follow God, but not if you're listening to the voice of the ego. Because if you think you're free to just, I'm only going to do what's loving, and you do not understand what the ego is about, you are actually not free. This is what I tend to term, when we start getting into these spiritual journeys, a spiritualized ego, where we think we're free. I'm making my choice and I want to do this, that, or the other. But most people who go on a spiritual journey do not transcend their ego. Course in Miracles tells us clearly, all are called. Some will answer, few will do the work necessary. Isn't that amazing? Few are willing to do the work necessary of questioning their thoughts, of becoming humble enough to realize that the spiritualized ego, the I know everything, I know I'm God, I know I'm source, is a trap of the ego. But it's a very sophisticated trap because we are moving through layers and layers and layers of obstacles until we are totally free. Well, you cannot be totally free until you have made a very clear decision that the ego's voice is not the one that you're going to seek counsel from. And any single bit of sadness, anger, jealousy, fear, anxiety, worry, that's seeking counsel from the ego. Because when you're operating at a level of joy, of peace, of oneness, of love, like I said, you are stable, you are absolutely clear. You're not going to have sadness, you're not going to have anger. All of those things are human things. Now, there's nothing wrong with any of them because that's what being a human is all about. But if you have made a choice, this is the new beginning, to move into a world where we're operating with total, complete awareness of our divinity. We are not going to just be humans doing human things based on what the ego tells us. We are going to be divine beings activating light through these body vessels, making us absolutely, totally, completely fifth dimensional souls, fifth dimensional beings operating with bodies of light. What that means is that we are not going to be experiencing the same old human emotions. Those human emotions of fear, of anger, of resentment, of jealousy. Hey, Crystal, thanks for joining us. Those are felt so that you understand what it's like to be contracted. Once you are clear that contraction, been there, done that, you've had enough of it, what do you want? You want expansion. Well, expansion, if you move to expansion, you cannot have contracting thoughts like sadness, anger, fear, jealousy. They're not compatible. Frequency-wise, they do not match. So those who are moving into the realm of the fifth dimension, which is to train your mind to think only with God. That's what the fifth dimension is about. When you think only with God, all your thoughts are high-vibing thoughts. They are going to transform your body. You will not need density. You will not have sickness. You can't have a loving thought that produces illness, because illness is a result of not being at ease with the truth of who you are, which is holy, which is love and light. So the bodies get diseased and have illnesses and have all kinds of things in the third dimension because they're giving us the result of the thoughts that we think. It's the result of the counsel that we have been seeking when we go to the ego, meaning we go to external voices for guidance. I grew up, like I'm sure most of you, because we're all that are here are similar age. We grew up being told that, cereals. I grew up eating Lucky Charms. I grew up eating Captain Crunch, all of those cereals. And I mean, they were promoted to us. Not only was it fast breakfast, but they were nutritious and they told us the ingredients and we bought into that. Or maybe other kinds of things that came out of a box. Maybe you ate waffles. I popped those Eggos in my the toaster, not only for me and for my kids, and we used to, my sisters, we used to kid around, oh, let go my Eggo, because we were conditioned to believe that we were eating nutritional things out of a box. But once you begin to understand truth, you begin to realize, okay, those things had no nutritional value. Sure, they tasted good, but the thing that made it taste good is actually not healthy for the body. So we are having to learn what makes this body healthy. Number one, don't put things into it that are not high vibing, which means that are not natural, that are not healthy. So we've got to ingest, we've got to take in the water, the air, the food that is healthy. But we've got to clear the mind, because the mind is the one that allows us to believe that those things in a box are healthy when they actually are not. So there's so many processes and layers of beliefs that we have received, that we have agreed with. So that's why this journey takes a while, lifetimes really, because every lifetime, if you are awakening in this lifetime, you're an old soul that has had lifetime after lifetime after lifetime of ascending. And when you have the death experience and you decide to incarnate, you incarnate at the level that you left at, which is why for me, it's so important that I know that my incarnation is going to be at the level of of awareness that I leave at. So I am super committed that in this lifetime, to totally and completely align with God. I only want counsel from the voice for liberation, the voice for truth, the voice for love, the voice that allows me to know that I and the Father, Mother God are one, so that I can have 100% responsibility for all that experiences that I have. This is what this is telling you. Your day is not random. Your day is the result of the thoughts that you're thinking. And until you are living in the now, you are still operating with thoughts from the past. Once you get really clear that you are in control of your thoughts, that you have made a decision, that you know what kind of a day that you want, and you do that moment by moment by moment, and you stay on top of your thoughts, when that happens, then you're living in the now. The past does not have control over you. This is where time speeds up, and it doesn't matter. I have a really challenging time now of thinking of things that happened in the past, because that is so not part of my reality. Because my mind has been quieted. I'm not regurgitating what dad did to me at this age or mom did to me. Once you're no longer reliving the past all the time, you live in the now, and time, of course, moves faster because there's no past to anchor you to, and you're not chasing the future. I don't care about the future. I really don't. Even though I just said that when I incarnate, which sounds like it's future, but to me, all of it happens concurrently. We're living different timelines now. So the version of me that is already incarnated is already exists. I get that. But in this experience that we're having, I prefer to just live with whatever is present right now, because I know that no day is random. So in the quiet spaces, I start my days totally, completely in contemplation, and I pay attention. What are there any thoughts out there that are in my head is the ego attempting to say anything? It did this morning. Yesterday was an extremely long work day for me, by choice, all of it beautiful and wonderful. And this morning I woke up with, oh, do you really want to teach today? Do you want to cancel today because you're so tired? And I'm going, bitch. I have that friendly relationship with my ego. It's like, bitch, of course I'm not going to give up the things that I love doing. So I just need to be okay that I had those thoughts of tired, of whatever. So I listened to the Holy Spirit. What do I want? I'm feeling my body needs a little boost. So let me go ahead and make a big breakfast. So I sauteed a whole bunch of veggies for me. It wasn't a whole bunch of veggies. It was just Brussels sprouts and some eggs, and made myself a really hearty breakfast. And when I was eating that, I could feel the high vibes that were recharging me. And I was so grateful that I didn't listen to the voice that wanted to cancel my day. Because if I were to cancel my day, I wouldn't have this experience with you. But this is what I wanted. So I am very clear that I do not let my ego talk me out of the things that I prefer, which is just a miracle that even happens. And believe me, I used to let my ego run my life, which is why so many things happened that gave me lots of lessons to get me to the point that now I am really clear about the truth of who I am. So paragraph 16, the second rule as well is but a fact. For you and your advisor must agree on what you want before it can occur. This step cannot be skipped. You and God must agree on what you want. So if you want a happy day, you must agree that you're entitled to it. You must agree with God. God says that you are powerful and a creator. You can't go around saying, I want a wonderful day. Oh, but what if something goes wrong? You're not agreeing with God. God said you're entitled to that happy day. You're entitled to miracles. God says that. You must align and accept that your way will be made easy if you just let it be that way. But if you say, oh, I want a happy day, but oh my God, things could go wrong. The weather is going to be bad. The traffic could be blah, 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 blah. And you begin to let your ego talk you out of that. You are not giving yourself permission to have counsel from only one voice. You are still waffling between the two. Nothing wrong with that. But until you are honest that you say you want freedom, but you insert thoughts of fear, thoughts of bondage, you are the one who keeps you from having what it is that you prefer on a consistent basis. You might have it, then it goes away. Why? Because you listen to the voice of the ego. So, second rule, you must agree with your advisor. So if you agree that the weather can ruin your day, you're agreeing with the ego. That says that you are not in control of your experience. The outside controls you. And that's the hallmark of the ego. It's always something else. It's always somebody else. It's always blame is always part of it. That's why if you listen to the ego, you're lame. Because if you blame, you're lame. To get yourself completely connected with your inner source of power, you must recognize that God created you powerful. So to use your power, you must say, yeah, I am powerful. Whatever I desire, I can experience. And if you don't judge it and you don't blame it, because you recognize that things will operate at the right and perfect time. Because you're eternal. Everything doesn't have to get done right now. Even though it is happening in a different lifetime, because we're all living all of our lives at one time. Again, in consciousness, there's no time. All of it is manifested as a hologram, everything at once. So your thoughts manifest immediately, but in physical form. We've got to connect with people, places, things, and it all has to match up because we are converging in collaboration. That's what this having physical bodies is all about, is to learn to collaborate and co-create. With the ego, we did it selfishly, winners and losers. Well, the co-creation, when we move into the fifth dimension, we're going to do it in collaboration, which is going to be so much fun. Everybody gets to win, not because we're giving fake certificates that you're wonderful when you haven't done your part. It's just that in the fifth dimension, everybody's living from their truth. Everybody's listening listening to the counsel of God, which guides each and every one of us to nothing but the enjoyment, the love, the peace of our manifestations. So it keeps on saying here, paragraph still 16, sentence 3, it is but this agreement that permits all things to happen. This agreement that you have to make with your advisor. Is God your advisor? Is ego your advisor? I cannot stress enough the importance of the honesty that is necessary for us to think, sit back, contemplate. Okay, I'm suffering. What am I thinking? Why am I agreeing with that counselor? Why am I agreeing with that advisor? Why am I allowing that to be my reality? Do you know, as a life coach, all of these years, it became comical after a while. But in the beginning, I was like, why do people do this? But then I began to laugh about it because I see the insanity, and it's just part of the process. But most everybody that I've ever coached, when they tell me what they want, they always argue for their limitations. They always tell me, well, yes, I want that, but this. Oh, I want freedom, but this happened. Oh, I want this, but I'm afraid. Oh, I want this, but I don't have the money. Or I want this, but. I did it too. I've done it too. So let me just say, that's why it's comical, because we all do it. But then I watch the warriors who have taken control of their mind, step back and become really honest. Yeah, I spent 3 days in fear. I was entertaining the ego. I was listening to the counsel of that advisor. No wonder I was so anxious and afraid and crying and a mess, because I was entertaining that voice that was talking to me. Now, when we start this journey, we can't turn that off. It has a momentum of its own. We have to observe it. And we have to be willing to say, that is part of the 3D world. I signed up to incarnate and come down to Crazy Town. I chose to have this experience of insanity. Let me appreciate the power of my insane mind, because it's the same mind that allows me to experience the power of my sane mind. It's the same power. There's not two separate powers manifesting. It's one power manifesting whatever you put in front of it. Are you putting in front of it what is of ego or what is of God? You get to decide what you experience based on what you're believing. So when you think about a movie projector, go to the movie theater, there's a screen in the front. That's life. That shows you what's happening. It's the screen. Then there's a projector. The projector is your mind. Now, in the projector, there is a light bulb. That's the power of God, always giving you what you want. Then there's the movie, the reel that you put in. That's your thoughts. Thoughts with God, thoughts with ego. So the power of God is going to allow anything that you think to be created, because you were created in the image of a creator. So you're using your light, you're using your power to illuminate what you are believing is true. So if you put the reel in there of suffering, that's going to be projected and become your reality in your life. If you want your life to be different, you must put something different in it. Does that make sense? I hope that analogy makes sense. So nothing can be caused without some form of union, be it with a dream of judgment or the voice of God. You go to the movie theater, that light is going to project onto the screen whatever you put in it. That's your union. Are you uniting with the ego and putting a horror movie on there, suffering and sadness and losers and contraction? Or are you uniting with the movie of love and joy and peace and fun, a romantic comedy? That's my life. That's what, to me, that's the movie that I'm seeing, is the romantic comedy. Everything is fun and loving. I used to put a lot of nightmares in front of me because I had all those worries, all those fears. And then I decided, why am I sitting here watching that movie when I'm the one in charge of the projector? I'm the one that has the light. I'm the one that puts it in the projector. I'm the one that sits and watches, and I'm crying for the scary movies. Don't put the freaking scary movie. And it was like, duh. Oh my gosh. It's so funny. Waking up is really a blast. I mean, it just gets funnier and funnier. Sentence number 5, decisions cause results because they are not made in isolation. Decisions cause results because they are not made in isolation. They are made in union. The movie that shows up in your vision, in your screen, that movie is the result of a decision. It didn't just pop on there. Decisions cause results because they're not made in isolation. They are made, all decisions are made with the voice of ego, the voice for God. All decisions are made from your awareness of your power or your lack of awareness of your power, but it's going to get created no matter what, because that's what we are, creators. We are creators. They are made by you and your advisor, for yourself and for the world as well. This is so important that we understand. This is why in the process of awakening, we have a time frame. This decade is the timeline where people can wake up and make choices about which frequency they're going to move to. It's coming pretty soon, where you're not going to be able to make a choice of which frequency you go to. The decision is being made now because the world is bifurcating, meaning those who want to experience the high vibes are coming together and are connecting. Those who are thinking in low vibes and controls, who think that the idea of a 15-minute city or the government telling them what to do makes sense, they are going to come together. Well, as the worlds bifurcate, those who make that decision that they are going to be staunch supporters of, the whatever new world order or whatever those things are, and somebody telling them what to do, and the external world controlling their medical decisions or their biological, whatever decisions. If you have made a decision by the end of this decade that is what you want, you're not going to be able to shift to this. You're going to have to work your way through inside of that world, move your way up in consciousness. We are in a shift. a 26,000-year cycle that is completing. So we're moving to the next 26,000-year cycle. Once you make the choice to step into a world of sovereignty, well, even in that world of sovereignty, there's going to be learnings that are going to happen, but not because anybody's trying to control you, but because you are shifting and learning to be an expression of the sovereignty. There's not going to be anybody in there that's going to tell you what to do. That is the frequency of freedom. If you, on the other hand, are believing that you need to be controlled at some level, that you're dependent on something external, that you need your safety from the government, and that you whatever decisions that are done with the ego, that is the world that you are locking yourself into. And when I say locking yourself into, nothing is permanent. But for this experience, for this incarnated experience, that is what you're choosing to have. And little by little, aren't you watching the world? Aren't you watching the groups that are connected in doing this and the groups that are connected in doing that? Well, even the country, or this particular country, we've got states that are more for this and states that are more for that. We're going to see more and more that shift. And it's not that you won't be able to move within this country. It's that vibrationally, you are going to be attracting that which resonates with your belief system. And when you attract that, it's going to be very challenging for you to say, oh, that's not what I want anymore, when the bifurcation period is over. So this is a topic that gets into, oh my God, it's just such a fun topic for me. I love learning about how the universe operates. While I was paying attention to just my ego, I was always concerned about me, my family, just the immediate things. But the more that I move outside of this believing that this is all that I am, and that I begin to understand the workings of the universe, there are so many moving parts out here as there are moving parts in your body. Because as within, so without, there is an amazing structure, if you will, of complexity in the outer world that is as complex as anything inside of one of our organs. And I am not going to take the time to study all of the ways that my organs work, because if I connect with the way that the universe works and I allow that to be my guide, I allow God's infinite, magnificent grandeur to be my guide, the internal gets taken care of, as within, so without, as above, so below. You just have to find the place that you feel excited to connect with. And from that place, you get to see the whole world. So as it continues in here, so we can complete this paragraph, the day you want, you offer to the world, for it will be what you have asked for and will reinforce the rule of your advisor in the world. In simple speak, do unto others as you like them to do unto you. If you want to have a happy day, you must go out into the world and be a happy person. If you want people to be nice to you, you must be the nice person. Because see, if you say you want a day that everybody's going to be nice to me, and you start off your meditation connected to God, you're listening to that advisor, you are clear that that is the only voice you're going to listen to, you made the decision, you have decided that my decisions cause the results, that's the way your day's going to unfold, and you go out and you meet somebody and you're happy and they are grumpy. Here's what happens. Let me say, the day that you want, you offer to the world, for it will be what you have asked for. If that person is grumpy and you shift into grumpiness, that's not the day that you asked for. Now you are not being in the world what you want the world to be for you, as within, so without. That person can be grumpy all day long. It should not, and actually it cannot affect you unless you choose to decide to listen to the advisor of judgment, the advisor of blame. Blaming them, now you're lame. Now you're giving power outside of you. If you want to maintain that happy day, you must commit to taking 100% complete control for how you perceive the world. You put the film in there. You put the film that it's going to be a happy day. And then all of a sudden somebody shows up grumpy, and then you pull the happy and you put your grumpy in. Who is making that decision? You. You are deciding to listen to the voice of the ego that is judging that person, that is deciding that what that person did is not right, instead of just saying, wow, that person doesn't know like I do that I can choose a happy day. Let me show them what that looks like. I'm just going to be happy no matter what. Why? Because you're offering to the world what you want. The day you want, you offer to the world, for it will be what you have asked for. You show that you have total, complete control of your thoughts, and will reinforce the rule of your advisor in the world. It reinforces God's power. It reinforces God's grace, because that person may later on say, how were you so nice to me when I was such a rude person to you? You can say, because I listened to God. God says I'm entitled to miracles. Can you imagine the examples that we are setting when we operate from that place and we're comfortable saying, I get my directions from God. I see, that's my only authority. There is no external authority. I don't belong to any political parties. I don't belong to any religious affiliations. I don't belong to anything. There's no external authority over me. I gave of myself completely to God. Best decision I ever made. It's truly the gift that keeps on giving, because I get clarity, I get guidance, I get synchronicity, I get a life that I absolutely love. Now, people may look at my life and go, but you don't have millions of dollars. You don't even have your own house that you own. You're living in a place that you don't even like the weather. Well, none of those things. Those are effects on the screen of my life, but they're not what I am committed to experiencing inside. That's what guides me, is God said that I get to be free if I do God's will. And God's will is for me to be happy, so I can be happy anywhere. I don't need the weather. As a matter of fact, here, that's what I had to learn, that I had a judgment when I let the ego be my advisor. Oh, the cold is bad. You don't like it. You're Latin. You don't like it. And I had to say, as I say, bitch, please. I'm going to enjoy the cold. I am going to enjoy all of it. Why? Because I can. Because I want a day of love and peace and joy. I don't want to suffer. I don't want to sit there and be angry that why would I do that to myself? Why would I waste precious time arguing with the weather when I get to decide how I feel inside? It's just absolutely amazing. All right, so this is last two sentences. Whose kingdom is the world for you today? Whose kingdom? What kind of day will you decide to have? Whose kingdom is the world for me? God's kingdom. The kingdom of heaven is the one that I live in, because the kingdom of heaven is the one that I have put on my projector. And my projector is my mind that shows me in the outer world what I want to experience. So I believe that everybody here is a magnificent, powerful, holy, royal being. All royal, because they're all my brothers and sisters. All come from the same source. Some think that they're dictators, some think that they're kings, some think that they're, poor victims. They can all think whatever they want. They're powerful creators. So I honor that each and every one of my holy brothers and sisters is a projector of the reality they want to experience. Now, do they know that they can pick their reality or not? That's the only difference between us. Those of us who know that we pick our reality and we are picking a reality that is joyful, listen, for a while, you will know that you pick your reality and you still pick to listen to the ego. It's going to happen because it's a pattern. It's a program that is running. And until it's completely, until you completely shift to this side, that program's going to keep running. So when you know that you get to choose your reality, why would you ever choose a reality that is not joyful, fun, easy, peaceful? You don't. You don't, except for the time when you're still in training. When you've got your training wheels on, you're going to go back and forth, you're going to waffle. That's okay. We all do that. But when you are clear of the truth of who you are and you have aligned completely with the voice for God, you're not going to make yourself suffer. There'd be no point in that. You've already been there, done that, and you graduated from that to the next level of the journey, the next level of consciousness, the next level of awareness. And now you're just going to be expanding. And guess what? Once you move in that direction, you don't look back. The world is doing what it's doing. And if you are called, if you're called to, like I am, to be in the world but not be of it, then I share information about how to see what's happening in the world and find what is higher frequency, what is lower frequency. Because in the world of the ego, in the world that the ego is still operating, there are beings who are operating higher frequency and lower frequency, because all of us go through a period of transition. And you can see the ones that are transitioning here, not transitioning gender-wise, because that's a different transition, but those who are internally transitioning from listening to the voice of the ego, and even though it appears to the outer world that they are still egoic because they still think that they're separate, they're operating with higher consciousness. And to be able to spot those who are operating in higher consciousness, you can't be judging people who are in ego, because then your ego got involved. But when you commit to seeing the world of all those outer things, and you begin to see, ooh, these people are making a choice to listen to God. It may not look totally clean. Mine didn't look totally clean until years of practicing. There are beings upon this planet right now that appear to be very egoic, that are actually so connected to God, that are listening to the voice for God more than not. And those are the ones that are facilitating many of the systems that are being created for the world, the new earth that is being revealed right before our very eyes, because they know that they don't want to keep doing things from greed. They know that. From corruption in darkness, they want to do things because they still think that they are humans and separate. They want to do things from a higher frequency, transparency, collaboration, for the greater good of all. So when you train yourself to know the distinction between the two, sit in the quiet of your home and pay attention to the world, and notice those who, even though they appear separate, are doing things in service to oneness. That will make you feel really good about where this world is headed, because amazing things are happening for those who have made the commitment to love. Even if they don't know that that's what they're doing, that they're connected to God, that they're just listening to God, there is a commitment to love. And to the best of their ability, they're doing things that are going to be in service to the greater good of all. They know what they want, and they are moving forward in the manifestation of that. Why? Because decisions cause results. Whether you're awake or not, it operates the same way. Love you all so much. Unmute yourselves if you want to share, if you got a nugget from this conversation. And if not, that's okay. To hear more of the other transmissions that I call Ascension with A Course in Miracles, go to my YouTube channel, Laina Orlando. And this is episode 104. So there's a lot of other episodes if you want to go back and listen to some of the other ones. Anybody want to mute yourselves? Hello. You got to unmute yourself.
There we are.
There you are. I can hear you.
Well, I'm not in heart there as the pictures, the notes that I'm actually in Atlanta.
Yes, that's so exciting. You're closer.
Yes. Well, there's I was laughing when you were talking about the ego saying, "Oh, I won't do this. I won't do this today. I'll do it maybe another time." You know, something that's good for you. You go, "Oh, I don't feel like doing that. Just, I'll just surrender to. I won't feel guilty about it." And it's such a game that I play often with myself, because I know what is better for myself. But I play the game and do my best not to feel guilty about the choices that I make. But inevitably, I know half the battle for me is won because I know. and I do make better choices more and more. I mean, just the cold shower story was a big lesson for me. That the days that I stand in the warm shower and don't take a cold shower, I'm just not as good as when I take that cold shower. It's only about 20 seconds of suffering, and then you right through it for the next few minutes, and afterwards you're flying. That's a massive reminder for me each time how powerful the mind is. Oh, it's going to be so cold, but it's not actually so cold. Just got to reset my mind, you know. And there are a myriad of other examples that I can think of based on what you said, how the ego just constantly fools oneself.
Constantly distracts us and lies to us. But the crazy part about it, Christo, is that we allow it.
Yeah.
That's what the wants us to get, is that we allow it. We are the projector, and we see everything that we decide to experience.
Yeah. I mean, I'm so totally into the fact that I'm responsible for everything that happens to me. You know, so I've got no recourse.
Good.
And it's great, you know.
Yeah.
And it allows me to get angry with myself, but that's fine. And then I deal with that, you know. And,
because the new earth that we are co-creating requires people that take 100% responsibility. Because once you take 100% responsibility for what you want to experience, you can't blame. And when you're not blaming, the games of lying, cheating, deception, they're not there. They're not there, because somebody who is taking 100% responsibility will do something about it. And that's the world that we are moving toward. That's the world that I'm so excited watching. So many people that are unconscious. They're unconscious simply because, and I say that, though, you know, that can sound like a judgment. I say that because I'm listening to what they say, and there's still some blame, but inside of the blame, you know, because as you've seen the charts that I show, we're moving little by little by little, and until we're fully awake, ego's still there. So I listen to the words that people use, so I can hear some ego there, but I hear so much responsibility, personal responsibility. I hear so much kindness and compassion, even though there's still some ego, but we're not going to pop into the fifth dimension until we move through those egoic beliefs. So somebody that is 80% ego, well, they're probably most likely the ones that are running the show that is corrupt. But the 70% do less. The ones who listen to the ego, 60%, even less, 50%, 40%, 30%. So yes, there are people that operate 20% from ego, but they're doing 80% goodness. They're in service. That is so exciting to watch, the transition from listening to the ego to being in service to the greater good of all. It's just beautiful to watch.
Yep. It is. Thank you.
Thank you. So good to see you. We'll have to connect and catch up since your trip to Atlanta. All right, everybody. Thank you all so much for being here with me. I just so love and appreciate you, and know that it's such a joy to do this. I will never let my ego talk me out of doing these transmissions. No way, Jose. All right. Have a beautiful day, my magnificent friends. Bye-bye.